10 reasons why I heal. I am healing because I want to feel safe and at home in my life. I am healing because I deserve to be seen, loved, and appreciated for who I truly am, underneath the shields of defensive coping that has kept me safe this life. I am healing because I feel tender, raw, and vulnerable to environmental patterns. I am healing because I see myself underneath the pain, and I love myself there, and want to encourage her to shine. I am healing because I love being in relationship with like-hearted souls and finding safety together. I am healing because my visions have been profound, and I know I will be sad if I do not learn this big lesson this life. How to stand in self-secure understanding and not reach for love or money. Allow it to come and stay without pressure, force, coercion, or false promises, while still taking action daily. I am healing because I am tired and need to feel a sense of deep rest at the baseline of my life. I am healing because I can shape the life I want to live with action, intention, and clarity of desire, without overworking or dumping my traumas into space constantly chaotic and looking for ground to land upon. I am healing because I choose to be with myself, choose to learn what love I receive most deeply, fully, richly. Big exhale. I really love this one. The access to choice. I am healing because I choose. What do I choose? I want to continue repeating why I choose to heal. So here we go. I am healing because I choose safety and connection. I am healing because I choose to belong in my own life. I am healing because I choose resting into ritual. I am healing because I choose to learn how to see ways through that hold space for others and myself. I am healing because I choose to change the patterns that have hurt me repeatedly. Hello, friends. Thanks for joining me today for our little weekly connection time, little journaling and tea together. I hope you enjoyed today's pages. I am feeling more centered and grounded in my heart these days, in the sort of nourishment of deciding to just be myself and show up, and letting the rest just fall away or come into connection or evolve or transpire as it will or won't. This is such a consistent practice of mine over the years. And at the same time, I feel like in previous cycles, a lot of, you can see my little lights behind me. I move over so you can see them more with my shelf, my elf on my shelf and my lights. It is the holiday season right now, and we are in December, mid-December of 2022 when I'm recording this. And this is sort of like a little journal of mine, I suppose. Pages in Process is the way in which I've been processing my pages and integrating the sharing component into what stories come through my pen onto the page, whether that's about my life or about what I'm experiencing somatically, sensorially in my body, or my perspectives in the world and how they are shifting and changing or opening or widening or deepening and finding more tone. I think I've struggled a bit with this inner conflict that feels like, how much of what I'm making is for you and how much of what I'm making is for me? And can I find a relationship where I am giving only what feels good, and that there is also feeling that I am receiving somehow through some component of like a consensual taking process with you, where I'm reading this book right now called The Art of Receiving and Giving, The Wheel of Consent, by Betty Martin. And it's this beautiful book about intimacy and pleasure and consent and the different ways in which we give and receive. And one of the quadrants she talks about in her Wheel of Consent, which she divides into 4 different quadrants, is the taking quadrant. And the taking quadrant being one that often people don't know even exists, or if they relate to taking, there is I think that we have a fear of taking. We have a fear of taking, or we overcompensate and we get really good at taking, but the taking might feel more like depletion of resources or stealing than it does actually consensual gift giving and then taking to receive. But the taking has she mentions like a forward action quality where you get to explore and take and move towards something at the same time. And there's something so beautiful about that, and something I want to continue to fold into my practice, whether it's my practice here on Pages in Process and how just the energy of that maybe informs how we might continue connecting together, or the overall overarching components of my life and how I can feel like there's more ability for me to utilize desire in clarity around consent and boundaries on the other person or people's or projects end, where I understand where my boundaries are, and then I can explore without guilt or shame or blame, and either on my end or on others' end. And I think that that's something I've really been afraid of with sharing my work, with leaning into the edge of how I share my pages, how I move through my pages, whether I'm creating workshops or masterclasses or an accountability group, or if I'm just kind of sharing my process with you and allowing you to bear witness. And I think the more I'm doing this, the more it seems like the latter, that I'm just sort of showing up to my process and letting you bear witness and letting it be a kind of like giving and receivership there. And that feels really vulnerable and really scary. And I'm like, well, but where does the money come from? Like, whether it's through this project or other projects, like if I know that I like to give in that way, and I also like to take in that way, where I let myself become this relational essence that exists out in the ethers, in the world, through the little videos I create or the little writings that I share or these little moments of dropping in, or the posts on Patreon with the ways in which I'm finding how works most smoothly there. I have this experience of, well, if you're going to be a patron, it has to be like an exchange, like you're purchasing something. But what's also interesting is I chose Patreon specifically because it's patronage and it's to support the creators that people like. Yet I feel in this interesting way that like I'm supposed to not share everything here so that I can share there. But then how do I invite you to come there if what I'm sharing most is private? How do I invite you into that connection time? So I'm working through on my own, and just in my own wheel of consent in myself, of what feels right. How can I explore? How can I move from curiosity and a place of true gift giving, and really taking from a place where I don't feel ashamed of my need to satiate desire. And okay. I had to take a little pause because I got a phone call. So coming back into connection now, though, I just want to say happy holidays to you. I hope you're having a smooth December. And I know for those of you who are also on this sort of healing journey that I'm on, it can be a turbulent ride sometimes when we are really deep in the mix of rewriting our patterns. And also, there are ways where we can connect either above the waves or below the waves and ride them and choose when we come in and out of them a little bit, or at least have practices that help us ride the waveforms of our emotional content in more suitable, supportive, connective, contained ways. So, while being honest with ourselves without lying to ourselves and without lying to one another about what we're going through. So, I'm learning this. I'm learning how to come into connection with you in and out of connection in ways that feel smoother for me, where I am building a sense of safety and trust with the witness, the you, the me that also watches the editing of what it is I'm creating, and finding something that feels like a resonant match for not only what's true about what's hard right now, but also that's building consistency of care in a direction that I want to keep living into, not just to sort of bring up my trauma and live in it and just be honest about it from there. Although sometimes that does happen, right? And it certainly has happened in past videos, but I'm finding more that I'm able to rest in the ritual, the structure that I'm sort of finding with the making and sharing process of reading some pages and letting that be a day and recording and then coming in and chatting with you and maybe letting that be a different day or the same day, and then finding ways in my Patreon to share that feels like it's a hug for you, a hug for me, a hug for the community that we foster there together. And being really willing to look at the hard things while also being kind to ourselves and one another in the process is so much of what I want to continue making and sharing from. So thank you for being a part of that journey, and I will see you next week. Bye.